Taurus, you feel like a lot of people in your life have been unchecked. Okay, unchecked. They're unchecked, unbothered, and unchanged. That's what I picked up on. There's a lot of people in your life who play the victim. I feel very solidly that, instead of taking responsibility, they tend to just sit and wallow in the things that have gone wrong and blame everybody else for their issues or problems. Knight of Bibles, that's a Knight of Bibles is someone who hasn't learned their fucking lesson, and naturally that is something that irritates you or that you detest so much about a particular person or people's. You cannot stand the fact that somebody wouldn't just admit that they're wrong. You just can't stand that. That for you, it's like it's hard for you to admit that you're wrong, Taurus, but it's also really hard for you to stand on something you just don't believe in. And that's why I feel like I got the Hierophant, and I also got the Hangman in the beginning. And I put the Hierophant away because I was like, okay, I know this is Tauran energy, and I know Hierophant represents somebody who's willing to basically gather information and knowledge and base their life off of the things that they've gathered and continue to gather, versus the people who base their life off the past. You're just not that person anymore. You are not cut out to be that person that everybody, I think, kind of expected you to be. There's a lot of people in your life that have told you that you're going to be this way. You're going to be just like your mother. You're going to be just like your father. You're going to be just like this bad individual, or this bad egg, this bad seed. And it just never came to you. That your life never ever, your life was bad. Don't get me wrong. Your life was shitty or awful or stressful. But it never hit that point to where you became that individual, because it's just never ever been a part of who you are, and you're a part of your soul. That's what I feel. It's like you just don't have that bad seed in your soul or in your chest. You don't have that shit in your body. It's just not a part of who you are. Okay, it's not in your blood. It's not something that passed down to you genetically. It's not something you ever wanted for yourself, and because of that, you never became that bad egg, that bad seed. You just never were that. Okay, it was never me. It couldn't. When somebody says it could never be me type shit, it could never be you. It could never be you. The Empress in the upright, it's still dawning on people just how strong-willed you have become. I feel like you've picked up some of the personality traits of the people that you were raised around or grown around. You've picked up the stronger personality traits that make you a lot more stubborn, I think, than the normal or average person. You're just incredibly stubborn. Like I said, you stand on what you stand on, and you don't let it go. You don't let it down. It's what you believe in. The Hangman in the upright. It's not something that makes you stagnant as much as it makes you or helps you feel grown. You've taken responsibility in your life, and that helps you feel like an adult, helps you feel grown. While all these other unhealed individuals in your life are still standing on false shit. They're still standing on fake shit. And that's just not something that's not something that you can sit there and support. It's just not who you are as a person. It's okay, so man up or woman up to all the things that you have done. Because, I've already done my part. I've done my growth. I've pushed myself to my limit, and I don't see you doing the same thing. I don't see you growing. I just don't see you growing, or I don't see growth with you. You know what I mean? This might be a romantic partner, 5 of Bibles in the reverse. I don't see growth with you or your family. That's what I picked up on. I don't see growth with you or your family. I don't see growth with you because your family rejects me. You reject me. You believe everything that's coming out of everyone else's mouth. But then when it comes to me, you just don't believe me. That doesn't feel good. It doesn't feel good to be around somebody who doesn't believe in you and trust in you, and love on you. That doesn't feel good. Okay? That's not what makes me happy. That's not what makes me feel free. That's not what makes me feel in love with you. You know what I mean? Or want to be by your side. It does not make me want to be there for you or with you. The Magician, it's a ticking time bomb, right? Because you've already given up all of these things. Sorry, there was a spider on my arm. You've already given up all of these beliefs in the past about reconciliation. You've already given up on the fact that Like, you already knew, part of you already knew subconsciously when you were younger, or like a couple of years ago, that things would never ever truly repair themselves in your situation. You just knew that. You felt that everyone from your past was gonna have to get a fucking move on, and you were gonna have to leave them behind, because you were already 12 steps ahead of them, and you didn't even really need like confirmation for that. You just waited for people to be on your level, and soon enough you found out that you can't wait for that. Like, it might take you the rest of your life for that to even happen. So now that you're kind of admitting that to yourself, and now that you're kind of in the zone of like fully believing that, you've left these situations and let them dry up. You know what I mean? Like, there's no more communication. There's no more back and forth. There's no more of that. You knew it couldn't be that anymore too. Like, you just knew, like, we're not going to talk as much. We're never going to be able to talk to each other or communicate with each other. 3 of Viking horns. We're never ever going to have an intelligent conversation. It's always going to be based off of emotions, based off of like people cracking and becoming like evil, or like evil and ill intention. Like, it's always going to be some negative, nasty shit where someone's going to bring up the past, and then somebody's going to start dragging out these different stories, and people are going to tell their sides, and I'm never going to be heard. You always knew it was going to be that. You always knew. Okay, you always knew they would never believe you or never trust you. You always knew that. Wheel of Fortune. It's just how we are born into certain situations subconsciously, especially as a child. A lot of the time, we already know what our relationship or what our position is going to be in our family's life. In our life, we know what our position is going to be. You know, judging by the characteristics of when you're younger, like, you know, some kids show leadership qualities, other kids show withdrawal, and like, you know, they become dissociated or stunted in their growth. And some kids, they overcome that. They fight back. They push back. And then there's some kids who lose the fight. You know what I mean? They lose the fight. They lose that feeling of like, you know, no, you have to let me go. No, I have to go free. They lose that. Especially when they're coming into adulthood, they lose all the fight left in them. But one thing I know about stubborn ass Taurus is there's not a lot of fights that you can lose, because you stand on what you believe in. And that's, you know, whether it's the worst thing or the best thing, you always stand 10 toes down for what you believe in. You stand tall. Okay, it's not like anyone could break that away from you or take that away from you in the tower. Yeah, that's a lot of the reason why your family is the way it is too. It's like you guys have 2 separate belief systems and 2 very, very different ways of doing things. You just have a totally different perception of your situation and how you grew and how you continue to grow. You guys aren't the same. You know what I mean? Like, you are not 2 of the same. Even if y'all were raised together, even if y'all were together very young, even if y'all were in a romantic connection, you met each other when you were on that same wavelength, or at least that's what you thought. You know, it's never gonna come clear. You know what I mean? It's never gonna come clear. There's never ever gonna be a shaking of the hand and both of y'all seeing eye to eye. It's just not who y'all are. You can't get with this person and get with this program because it's not who you are. And that's that. The Chariot, yeah. Like, as quickly as things seem to get like super heated and passionate and there was love there, it just as quickly left the fucking building. You weren't able to follow through on it because it just as quickly, all of that passion, all of that like drive, it went away. It ran away. You know what I mean? It wasn't there anymore. Because it was never supposed to or going to be there. You know, it was always going to fall on your shoulders to be the grown one or the adult one, to move away from the situation. It was always going to be on your shoulders. Because these people don't change, but you do. Okay, you do. Even if you don't even realize the amount of change, just like you can change something so slight in the way you communicate with others, that can change the whole entire ballgame. Truthfully, it can change your whole entire life. You can upgrade the types of people that you're around just by simply changing the means of communication, like how you're communicating to others, how truthful you're being, like how tolerant you're being of bullshit, and how, you know, who you choose to be around is going to be who you choose to be. And that's just what I want to say. Like, who you choose to have in your life and who you choose to be around is going to be who you are at the core. You know, the people that you see changing and rearranging their lives and trying to become better, that's who you're going to want to be around. The people who have stayed stagnant and stayed still, that's not for you no more. Okay, Taurus, it's not for you. And we both know that. So let's get a move on now, Taurus.